This week, I have to assume that Donald Trump was sitting around the White House and decided that he had not yet done enough damage to our climate and to efforts to stop global warming. And so he has a new plan, and it is a series of fairly brutal tariffs against solar cells and other solar equipment that are used for the rapidly expanding solar industry inside of the US. And initial analyses show that this is likely to significantly cut new solar installations and also probably kill maybe 10 to 20,000 workers in the solar industry just in the next year. And so the tariffs he's announced are 30% next year, falling by 5% each year for 4 years there, with a tiny bit that's exempted from the tariff in the beginning. And energy experts say it's unlikely that the tariffs will create more than a small number of American solar manufacturing jobs, since low-wage countries will continue to have a competitive edge, even with the 30%. And the reason for this is interesting. So if you talk about the people who work in the solar industry, you might think, well, they make solar cells. But actually a very small percentage of people who work in solar actually produce solar cells. More than 260,000 Americans are employed in the solar sector, which by the way is way, way, way bigger than coal. But fewer than 2,000 of those are actually manufacturing them. There's a lot of other jobs like installations, maintenance, and all of that. And so the interesting thing with these tariffs is that to think that this would lead to new jobs, you would have to know virtually nothing about the solar industry and also probably nothing about international trade. Because now those tiny 2,000 workers who make the cells still produce cells that are unfortunately more expensive than the foreign ones, even with the tariff, which means that they will not see significantly higher sales. People will still buy the foreign ones, except they'll have to pay 30% more, meaning they're less likely overall to actually want to install them in the first place. And what's tragic about this is that it comes on the back of explosive growth in solar energy here in the US. Over the last 8 years, an influx of cheap imported panels has driven down the cost of solar projects by 85%. As a result, the number of solar installations has soared to 12 gigawatts last year from less than 1 gigawatt in 2010. So just over about 7 years, huge growth in the industry. And a chief executive for Renewables Corporation says that every percentage point of tariff is going to mean projects which will no longer be built because they're no longer economically viable. We'll lose projects. No question. It's been estimated in the things that I've seen that about 11% of installations next year will not be built. And that actually hides the problem because a lot of the installations that will be built next year, they've already got the equipment they need. The huge drop off we're gonna see is actually going to be in the year after that and the year after that when new purchases need to be made. And so this is already gonna be a disaster, but in a year or two, it's gonna look even worse.
So let's talk about context here and consequences. So first of all, as John explained, there's 2,000 people who work in the manufacturing of these solar panels. Only 2,000 out of the 260,000 overall in the industry. The estimates are that we're gonna lose, because of the tariffs, 23,000 jobs overall in the sector. So that's 11 times the number of jobs that exist in manufacturing in this sector.
Yeah.
So how does that make any sense? You would have to increase the number of jobs 12-fold to make up the difference in manufacturing, which no one thinks is possible or going to happen in any way, shape, or form. So we know with almost great certainty that this will cost us tens of thousands of jobs. Okay, so then why do it? Well, there's a number of reasons. One is propaganda, like Trump said, I'm gonna do tariffs and it's gonna create jobs. And then if any solar manufacturer creates like 50 jobs, he'll talk about that nonstop till the cows go home. And the press will get distracted by the next tweet and not report the 23,000 jobs that they're gonna lose, right? So the second reason might be crony capitalism. So whether it's the two companies, in this case, Suniva or Solar World Americas, and I got no beef with those companies, and I don't know that this is the case, but they might have, done whatever they do with politicians to get them to say, oh yes, we will protect you. The rest of the industry will be screwed, but you guys will get protected with these tariffs. Third possibility is the oil and gas industry.
Yep.
They said, look, solar is a real problem. It's massive competition to us and it's getting cheaper by the day. While pretending to help solar manufacturers will help to actually kill off our competition. And those guys give a ton of money, and not only in campaign contributions and independent expenditures, but also in lobbying. So that's the game that's being played here.
Yeah, and it's really tragic. I mean, we're like it seemed. If you look back 10 years, certainly 20 years ago, the idea that solar would be a big thing. I mean, Americans are so dense when it comes to switching over to renewable forms of energy. The fact that the price is shooting down so low has broken through even that stubbornness. And so a lot of people are actually installing solar, and this is going to be a crippling wound for at least a few years. Solar back in 2016 created 1 in 50 of the new jobs in the US, which is a big percentage for a small industry still. It's expected it'll be higher in 2017. And the solar industry itself was, before these tariffs, growing at 17 times the rate of the rest of the US economy. Like, this is so important now, and it really puts, I think, in stark contrast how important a president is. That Trump can come in and he can kill a significant percentage of the industry with a regulation like this. Whereas, I mean, for all the other problems, like Obama helped put money into renewable energy and into the tax breaks that you get for electric cars and things like that. Like, so with Trump, we have a crippling of it. If we'd had a different president, then perhaps there'd be investment in this industry, and America could become a world leader in this. Instead, we're going to continue to follow other parts of the world that are helping to adopt and innovate in the solar and other renewable industries every single year. It's a real tragedy.
It was growing at 17 times the rest of the economy. But don't worry, Trump's on the watch here, and he made sure he's going to put an end to that. Yeah. If any part of our economy is growing, Trump will kill it. So that's where we are today with solar. If you like this video, bless your heart. We got a lot more where that came from. We do a full show every day, Monday through Friday. Come enjoy it ad-free by becoming a member. tytnetwork.com/join.